Hi everybody, welcome to Private Midwives podcast with me, Sharon Gaemon. I am a matron here at Private Midwives. I'm also a caseload midwife and carry a caseload of my own along with all the other stuff that I do. So just so lovely to hear lots of positive aspects of birth, because there's so much negative out there, and it's not that the negative outweighs the positive at all. It's just because people find those stories more interesting. But I think for new mums that are, or pregnant women who are sitting there sort of fearing things, to be able to put this out there for them, so good, isn't it? I mean, it's just fabulous. So, I mean, when you think about your birth journey so far, I mean, where are we all sitting in terms of, have we finished our birthing journeys? Are we thinking about doing it again? Would you do anything differently? I'll go around the board. I mean, obviously I'm too old, so I'm not going to do it again. But now I do find myself putting pressure on my children, the ones that haven't birthed yet. So, haven't had babies yet. And it's like, come on, get on with it. So Maria, what about you? Have you finished your journey?
Well, I have two boys, and I was convinced Sean was a girl. I had pink baby girls and everything in the bag. I just was like, I'm so hormonal, it has to be a girl. And when he
Yeah,
came out, I was like, oh my God, it's another boy. So I think somewhere in me, I'd love to have another baby. And obviously, if it's healthy, perfect. And if it's a girl, even better, to
yeah,
have a bit of balance in the house. And if I was to be lucky enough to have another pregnancy and birth, I'd love to have one at home. Like
yeah.
that's my kind of wish, and was my wish on Sean. That didn't work out, but I think hopefully I'd be able to do that if I went again. So yeah, that's what I'd
Yeah,
love to do. Yeah.
fabulous. And just to say to you, you weren't early, actually. What you were was
Okay, yeah.
gestation right for you, because obviously we all, everybody carries differently. And, we say term is anywhere between 37 and 42 weeks. And so therefore it seems that, 39 weeks or whatever it is about right for you. And
Yeah.
so that's gestationally correct for you. That's how long
Okay,
you
yeah,
carry
yeah.
your babies. So you weren't early, you weren't, and Kayleigh, you weren't late, this because you went the same both times. So that tells you that gestationally, that's just what's right for you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing today, Maria. And Kayleigh, what about you? Are you done?
I mean, probably 99% done. Like, I think, you never know how you're going to feel in a year. But for now, I think, having a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, it's really busy. I've taken extended break from my job, and I'm working as a gentle sleep coach as well. So to give me that flexibility to be able to care for them and, do the Montessori drop-offs, and my
Yeah,
Noah, because he's not in a kind of crash or formal childcare, all our family kind of help out.
yeah,
So, it's what we're doing at the moment, and our hands are full,
yeah,
very
I'm sure.
full. So, who knows what the future will bring in a year's time. It could be the same or it could be different. So I'm not 100% closed, but I'm really happy, to have two healthy,
Yeah.
happy boys and to be able to raise them. Like I can really see them thriving, and it's such a lovely, fun time, So we're, I guess, very happy at the moment. So
And do you, if you think that the ever did go down that, do you ever think about, wonder what it would be like if I just did it without an epidural, or if I did it without that? Do you think about that, or are you just really sort of, if it happens again and I have a induction again, I
like
will?
again, I'm not for or against. I think for me, like the first time, because I was in labor for so long, and like, Lucy was saying, and Maria, like you're exhausted. So you're kind of
Yeah,
like, and like that pushing phase, it is so intense. It's almost like a hit workout that, really pushing. It's very strenuous,
yeah,
So I think depending on, like, if I had a choice, I'd choose to get one, because for me, I felt very relaxed and calm. But I think if I was ended up in a position where it was, it was too far along, where there was no option, then I would just go with it. But I think like that, in terms of trauma and how you process your birth, trauma's what happens inside of us, how we respond to an event.
yeah,
So, for my birth, for someone else, that could have been really traumatic, or like Maria's birth could have been really traumatic for me. So
Yeah.
I guess at the time, for me, the key is really preparing and having, knowing as much as I can and having my little, bag of tricks, but also being able to advocate. I think that's the really important thing, that oftentimes when you go in, you're so vulnerable because you're in pain, you might be alone, and you feel like because you're in a hospital setting that you're, this kind of a level of authority in terms of, doctors, nurses, but being able to advocate for yourself and not be shy about that, even when staff appear busy or telling you they can't come back, to tell them what you're feeling like, if you're feeling
Yeah.
like, so for me, I think if I got to the point where I had no choice, I probably would just go with it. But if it was a very clear option, I would choose to not be in pain, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Thank
And
you
with
for your
Noah,
honesty.
like because I only had the epidural for like, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, they took it out and I was actually able to move my legs straight away.
Yeah.
It was like I never had it. So, and again, like that, there was that scare, fear kind of out there in on social media. And when you're looking and researching that if you have an epidural, you're gonna tear. So,
Yeah.
that's not always the case.
Not always the case. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone's journey is different. That's so
yeah.
important to get out there, that every woman's journey is different and it's individualized to them. It's real for them. Lucy, what about you? So you have the boy, you have the girl,
Yeah.
where are you sitting in all of this?
So yeah, it's funny because I think we're definitely 100% done. But with getting pregnant again after Aoife's birth, I was very anxious really because I was worried about giving birth again. But if
Yeah.
there's one thing I would like to do again, which is weird, is I'd like, I feel so differently about it this time around. If I could
Yeah.
have another birth and have you with me again, it would be magical, but I don't think we want any more. So I think we're done, yeah. But it's yeah, what we've got to, one of each, and they're both healthy, and I'm really, really happy. So yeah.
Thank you. I mean, thanks for everybody for sharing their stories today. I just want to end on a very quick story about how having the birth that you want, and I think all three of my guests today have all ended up with the births that they feel okay about, feel good about, in fact, and made choices about, which is really important. How it can change the course of your life. Actually, I looked after a lady once. I've looked after many women in this sort of situation, but this particular lady sticks out in my mind. And she had a very, very high BMI, and she had been made to feel like some sort of alien in the NHS prior to, and that's just because they're following guidance. They're following like NHS guidance. I know in Ireland it would be the HSE, but the impact that had on her was that she felt completely. I mean, she was somebody who felt really good about herself, but she had quite a raised BMI, and so she didn't want to feel like that again, second time round. But she hadn't realized, I don't think, that, or the family had seen that she went inward after the birth of her first child, and it completely changed her personality afterwards. She wasn't this outward big bubbly person. She wasn't that same person again. And they all clubbed together. I remember they all clubbed together when she got pregnant again and paid for her to have me as an independent midwife at the time. And we ended up, she had a very straightforward pregnancy, labor and birth, and she had a lovely, beautiful home birth. And I remember she'd had a loss as well, which was very sad. And she'd had so her little boy, and then she had a little girl who was born, but then she'd lost that little girl. So obviously she'd had quite an intense sort of history, as well. I remember her saying to me that she was just treated as if she were a whale, and that she needed to be completely managed very carefully and in the hospital, because she wasn't going to be able to birth her baby very easily because of her size. So I just remember that obviously the relationship, Lucy can attest to this, that the relationship that you build up with a client when you're giving continuity, or if you've got somebody that you trust and and you learn to, have a relationship with them. The benefit that she got out of that was not even known to herself as such, but she invited me to the christening of the little boy. And it was in a tiny little church, in a very old little church that didn't really do services anymore, to be fair. But because our little girl was buried in that graveyard, the vicar from there, or the priest said that he would do the christening of this particular baby in that church, you know. And so she invited me to come to the christening. She wanted me there. And I just remember my husband and I, we went to the christening, and we were outside the church as we were gathering. This woman came out of the crowd. I can only explain it was like some sort of comedy sketch. She was coming through the crowd saying, "Let me out of, where is she?" And she came up to me and she said, Sharon. And then she just threw her arms around me. I'd never met this woman, actually. I didn't know who she was, but she threw her arms around me, and I was kind of like scared, to be honest. And I looked at Paul, my husband, and I was like, okay. And she just said to me, and she came back from the hug and put her hands on my face, and she just said to me, thank you for giving me back my daughter. And that has stayed with me so much since doing what I do, stayed with me for so long. And she went on to have another baby with me, you know, a few years after that as well. The impact that particular experience had for her after that first two experiences, really, it really changed the course of her life. And it's very humbling, actually, as a midwife that works in the way that I do, to know that having continuity of care, having somebody that you know and trust, somebody that you know is on the end of the phone and things like that is, you know, can be so life-changing for somebody. And I'm so privileged to work in the way that I do, and I love it. So but you know, other people, obviously you've all had fantastic experiences, and I'm not to take away from those, please don't think that's what I'm doing, but I think obviously I am a private midwife and I do work for Private Midwives, and I think if anybody is interested or feels that they know somebody that would benefit from this sort of care, or you know, wants to have a look at the website. I know it's not for everybody, and I know unfortunately it is a private service and it's something you have to pay for. But if you can't get it in your NHS or HSE trust, you know, and you feel it's something that you or a family member could really do with, please do pop along to the website, have a look at privatemidwives.com and have a look at all the resources and everything. The lovely Maria and Kayleigh both use the website, actually. They haven't used Private Midwives, but they found benefit from the things that they've seen on our, you know, Instagram and things like that. So it's important to know that private midwives are out there. You can get all sorts of resources and help on our websites, on our social media. So we are private_midwives with Instagram, and it's just Private Midwives, I think, with TikTok and Facebook. So thank you, ladies, so much today for joining me and sharing your amazing stories. I know that people are going to love to listen to them. I've loved it. I could talk to you for hours, all of you. It's just amazing. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you,
You're
Sharon.
welcome.